Cross. Cross forms were used as symbols, religious or otherwise, long before the Christian era. But it is not always clear whether they were simply marks of identification or possession or were significant for belief and worship. Two pre-Christian cross forms have had some vogue in Christian usage. The ancient Egyptian hieroglyphic symbol of life, the Ankh, a tau cross, surmounted by a loop and known as crux ansata, was adopted and extensively used on Coptic Christian monuments. The swastika, called crux schemata, composed of 4 Greek capitals of the letter gamma, is marked on many early Christian tombs as a veiled symbol of the cross. There are 4 basic types of iconographic representations of the cross. The crux quadrata, or Greek cross, with 4 equal arms. The crux emissa, or Latin cross, whose base stem is longer than the other 3 arms. The crux commissa, in the form of the Greek letter tau, sometimes called Saint Anthony's cross. And the crux decussata, named from the Roman decusus, or symbol of the numeral 10. Also known as St. Andrew's cross for the supposed manner of the martyrdom of St. Andrew the Apostle. Tradition favors the crux emissa as that on which Christ died, but some believe that it was a crux commissa. Ankh, ancient Egyptian hieroglyph signifying life, a cross surmounted by a loop and known in Latin as a crux ansata, ansate, or handle-shaped cross. As a vivifying talisman, the Ankh is often held or offered by gods and pharaohs. The form of the symbol derives from a sandal strap. As a cross, it has been extensively used in the symbolism of the Coptic Orthodox Church. The many variations and ornamentations of processional, altar, and heraldic crosses, of carved and painted crosses in churches, graveyards, and elsewhere, are developments of these 4 types. Cross. For medieval churches was the Latin cross plan, as at San Lorenzo. The longer arm of the cross formed the nave of the church. During the Middle Ages this plan was considered a symbolic reference to the cross of Christ. Cross, the principal symbol of the Christian religion, recalling the crucifixion of Jesus Christ and the redeeming benefits of his passion and death. The cross is thus a sign both of Christ himself and of the faith of Christians. In ceremonial usage, making a sign of the cross may be, according to the context, an act of profession of faith, a prayer, a dedication, or a benediction. Numeral 10, also known as St. Andrew's cross for the supposed manner of the martyrdom of St. Andrew the Apostle. Tradition favors the crux emissa as that on which Christ died, but some believe that it was a crux commissa. The many variations and ornamentations of processional, altar, and heraldic. Swastika, equilateral cross with arms bent at right angles, all in the same rotary direction, usually clockwise. The swastika as a symbol of prosperity and good fortune is widely distributed throughout the ancient and modern world. The word is derived from the Sanskrit svastika, meaning conducive to well-being. It was a favorite symbol on ancient Mesopotamian coinage. In Scandinavia, the left-hand swastika was the sign for the god Thor's hammer. The swastika also appeared in early Christian and Byzantine art, where it became known as the Gammadian cross, or crux gammata, because it could be constructed from 4 Greek gammas. 9. Cross, the principal symbol of the Christian religion, recalling the crucifixion of Jesus Christ and the redeeming benefits of his passion and death. The cross is thus a sign both of Christ himself and of the faith of Christians. In ceremonial usage, making a sign of the cross may be, according to the context, an act of profession of faith, a prayer, a dedication, or a benediction. Before the time of the Emperor Constantine in the 4th century, Christians were extremely reticent about portraying the cross because to open a display of it might expose them to ridicule or danger. After Constantine converted to Christianity, he abolished crucifixion as a death penalty and promoted, as symbols of the Christian faith, both the cross and the Chi-Rho monogram of the name of Christ. The symbols became immensely popular in Christian art and funerary monuments from circa 350. For several centuries after Constantine, Christian devotion to the cross centered on the victory of Christ over the powers of evil and death. And realistic portrayal of his suffering was avoided. The earliest crucifixes, crosses containing a representation of Christ, depict Christ alive, with eyes open and arms extended, his Godhead manifest, even though he is pierced and dead in his manhood. By the 9th century, however, artists began to stress the realistic aspects of Christ's suffering and death. Subsequently, Western portrayals of the crucifixion, whether painted or carved, exhibited an increasing finesse in the suggestion of pain and agony. Romanesque crucifixes often show a royal crown upon Christ's head, but later Gothic types replaced it with a crown of thorns. In the 20th century a new emphasis emerged in Roman Catholicism, especially for crucifixes in liturgical settings. Christ on the cross is crowned and vested as a king and priest, and the marks of his suffering are much less prominent. After the 16th century Protestant Reformation, the Lutherans generally retained the ornamental and ceremonial use of the cross. The Reformed churches, however, resisted such use of the cross until the 20th century, when ornamental crosses on church buildings and on communion tables began to appear. The Church of England retained the ceremonial signing with the cross in the rite of baptism. Since the mid-19th century, Anglican churches have witnessed a revival of the use of the cross. The crucifix, however, is almost entirely confined to private devotional use. A number of Protestant churches and homes display an empty cross without a depiction of Christ, to memorialize the crucifixion while representing the triumphant defeat of death and the resurrection.